So our final panel here, and I'm sorry, Zach, I don't have the picture right up here in front, but I can do that real quick. Zach Shankler here is the current serving VP of Quai, a corporate officer of the organization. He helps you keep the train on the tracks, as the saying goes. So thank you, Zach, for keeping this train on the tracks. Let me get to some of my questions for y'all.
Don't do that again.
So, AI policy. All right. It's going to be a bit of an open-ended one. Ruth, maybe I'll start with you over here. What does democratization of AI mean to you?
If you'd asked me that a year ago, I would have got a different answer, I think. But it's Quai's attempt to give us what Richard was just talking about, agency, what was it? Agenticity and agentiality. I love when people manipulate language like that. I think it carries that responsibility as well, that we need to be aware of the way that we are using these tools, rather than being victims of these tools.
Thank you. Zach?
Check. All right, well, democratization, I guess, can have a lot of meanings, right? Personal AI is personalization. But to me, democratization means access and participation. It means that no matter your technical skill set, no matter your knowledge, no matter your position, no matter your situation in life, you are able to access that information, that technology, that capability, and you're able to enhance yourself. That's, for me, that's what true democratization means.
Steve?
I mean, ultimately, let me see if I can turn this on. Oh, let me use yours. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I see a society of digital twins with humans acting in concert with them and, participating in democracy directly, like I said, and having a much more direct democracy because we have these agents which can represent us not only in, government as we know it, but in any larger association. And everything else these guys are saying too on the way to getting there.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think the other thing I would say, this crowd tends to focus on democratization as a technology parameter, something to build in at the outset, maybe to make it more edge-based.
You guys need to switch mics.
Oh, yeah,
We tend to think about it as from the technology viewpoint, right? Something that maybe is on the edge, gives me more control. And I guess as I would like to just say, put ourselves in demos is the many, that's the Greek term, right? The many people have no clue what open source means. They don't know how to keep their private and public keys. They don't even know what they are, right? And so if we really want to democratize the technology, we need to bring it down to their level. And that's where I believe that's where the governance comes in. That's where we have intermediaries that people can use. You don't need to use them, and some folks in this crowd would never, and that's totally fine. I totally understand the notion of disaggregation, moving away from intermediaries, but for many people, it's a source of support and a place to go to when things go wrong. So having that entity there, always there to work with people, to help them take the technology on board, and then get that full autonomy and agency out of it. I think that's a part of the process.
Well said. What would you say to those who see ethical considerations as a hindrance to progress? Zach, how about we start with you?
Ethical considerations as a hindrance to progress. I think that needs its own symposium.
Well, you're on the spot now.
Yeah, I know. That's why you chose me first. I go back to this word democratization and what it means to each individual. I think that there is a concept of an ethical standard, a concept of governance as a framework, a concept of guidelines, but I think ethicalness is also relative to each individual. and how they walk through their own lives. Is it a barrier to technological progress? I think that once we pose or impose our own ethical influence on the progress of technology, it stops the conversation. And by stopping the conversation, we stop the research, and then we start focusing on elements that don't push the progress forward and mire us in cyclical black holes of non-progress. And that, to me, and look, ethical is important, but to me, it's got to come down to how you communicate that from person to person, right? And digital twins, right? If you imbue your ethical nature into that digital twin, and then we have a fiduciary framework of governance on top of it, then maybe we have a working model for relationships, for interrelatedness.
Well said. Steve?
Yeah, ethical progress is the only progress. All the others are illusionary. Most of the supposed economic growth of this country in the last 50 years is just new ways to financialize things or, leverage things that already exist without actually producing the things that make people happy. So, and you're certainly right. I mean, the thing is that we can't define ethics globally or we're going to get some sort of value lock-in, potentially. So, and in just a, societal inflexibility and, all the problems that we have with large-scale conflict. So if we take that down to a granular level and really operationalize personal ethics so that you can have your twin go out in the world and, perform your ethics for you, then you can see those results and give it feedback and improve your personal contribution to the ethics sphere, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, one of the things I learned as a lawyer at Google is that the people who use our products and services are users. And when I would question that, I'm like, well, why don't we call them like customers or clients or patrons? No, that implies an obligation. And so I learned that being a user basically meant you had no rights except the rights given to you by the company. And hopefully even that was, the minimal necessary that a carefully crafting lawyer would put in the terms of service. So I think that low to basically non-existent ethical layer on the current web is what's frankly holding back the technology innovation, because now we're just beholden to whatever the platforms want to put in the world on their own terms. And I also think ethics, it's easy to talk about ethics, but frankly there are billions of ethical systems walking around in the world. Each one of us has our own. And I think the notion that, for example, relying on the government, with a law to say this is the right ethical standard we're going to apply to the companies and what have you, I think it's wrong, or I think at least it's misguided, or I think at least it's not complete. That in fact we should be ceding a lot of the territory to the average person to be the one to have their ethical systems through digital twins and lots of other cool technologies put in the world so their full autonomy and agency is out there for the platforms to reckon with, rather than us having to reckon with whatever minimal standard they apply to us.
Ruth?
Say it again. It was ethical considerations are a hindrance?
There are those who would argue that, thinking about the ethics is a hindrance to the technological progress in the industry. For example, let's roll it out through education without thinking about the impact of that on the students or the teachers or
So your question was, what would I say to them?
Yes, what would be your thoughts for
response would be, what is wrong with you? Because the only concern with that, though, is that, as they've just discussed, that the ethics are an individual concern. And so if you're imposing your own ethical standards on a classroom or a curriculum, and then banning things that don't conform to your ethical standards, then we're getting into some dangerous territory.
Well said. I think we saw a lot of that with some of the early system instructions and some of the models. Last question here, and then we'll wrap up and get you all over to the Hotel Dina for Twilight. How can we best balance this technological advancement with the societal impact that it is definitely going to cause? Why don't we start with you, Steve? You're looking at me like you're ready to answer this.
It's, yeah, once again, very complex, so we better get on it. That's all I can say. Get to work. That's, yeah, enough talking.
Well, yeah, in my previous incarnation, I was a public policy lawyer, so the first thing I would say is don't look to the governments, particularly in the current one in the United States. Unfortunately, they have a very particular perspective on things like AI. It's all about America first, America always, which I think is a pernicious approach if we're trying to think about a much broader, deeper impact on society and how we should be preparing for it and preparing the people who will be the actual recipients of, hopefully utilizers of the technology. So I think it is sort of up to us. It's up to the industry writ large, our community, our ecosystem, whatever terms you want to use, to try to come up with some of these standards and ways, again, of bringing the average person into what we do so they feel comfortable with the technology and excited about it and want to use it.
Well said. Zach, how about you?
So, real personal subject. It comes down to education. And it comes down to the hero. Each and every one of us are a hero. Each and every one of us is data, is personality, is relationship, is multi-dimensions. And I cannot stress that enough. We are not AI. AI is a tool. But AI has the capability to unlock potentials we don't even know we have inside of us. I think understanding that element and focusing, and I use Pandora's box as a metaphor in a lot of my conversations, all the ills of the world are released, but hope is more powerful than all those ills combined. We need to hope, and we need to educate people on how to grasp that hope and how to work with this technology in the future. And we need to build the systems that we're talking about at Kwai that will give us a platform for this.
Well said. It's all about education, Ruth.
Yep, you stole my line. I don't teach in social sciences. I don't teach hard sciences. I don't teach physics or mathematics. I teach in the humanities. And I think if we keep this innovation in the humanities, or at least with a focus on the humanities of humanity, singular, then I think we're going to be okay.
Well said, well said. Well, thank you, panelists. Really appreciate all of your insights today. Thank you, Zach, for stepping in here.